The rain was a cold slap against Riley's face, each drop a reminder of the life he'd left behind. He stumbled through the dense Oregon forest, the weight of his swollen belly slowing his steps, his breath hitching with every crack of a twig underfoot. He wasn't just running from the paw that was running from him, the man who'd claimed his heart and then shattered it. Riley Carter had never planned to fall for Ethan Caldwell, the ruthless CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, a man whose charm was as sharp as his ambition. They'd met 2 years ago at a Seattle tech conference, where Riley, a brilliant but shy software engineer, had been pitching an app to streamline mental health resources for marginalized communities. Ethan, all tailored suits and steely confidence, had zeroed in on Riley like a hawk spotting prey. "You've got fire," Ethan had said, his voice low, his gaze pinning Riley to the spot. "I want you on my team." Riley thought he meant professionally. He was wrong. Their affair was a whirlwind: late nights in Ethan's penthouse, stolen kisses in boardrooms, whispered promises that felt like forever. Ethan was an alpha in every sense, commanding and intense. But with Riley, he softened, his touches gentle, his words tender. Riley, who'd spent his life hiding his Omega identity to avoid judgment, felt seen for the first time. But Ethan had secrets to a fiancé he never mentioned, a corporate empire built on ruthless deals, and a family that expected him to uphold their legacy. When Riley discovered he was pregnant, everything unraveled. "You can't keep it," Ethan had said, his voice cold, his eyes avoiding Riley's. They were in Ethan's office, the Seattle skyline glittering through the glass behind him. "This doesn't fit my life." Riley's heart splintered, but he didn't beg. He packed a bag, left his job, and vanished into the forests of Oregon, determined to raise his child alone. For 9 months, he'd build a new life in a small cabin, surrounded by pines and silence, teaching coding classes online to survive. He thought he'd escaped. Until today. The forest was supposed to be his sanctuary, but now it felt like a trap. Riley's pulse raced as he heard footsteps behind him, deliberate and heavy. He clutched his jacket tighter, the weight of his unborn child grounding him even as fear clawed at his throat. "Riley," a voice called, deep and unmistakable. "Ethan." Riley froze, his back to a cedar tree, his breath shallow. How had Ethan found him? And why now, when Riley had finally started to believe he could be enough on his own? Ethan emerged from the mist, his dark coat drenched, his jaw set. He looked different, less polished, more raw, like the forest had stripped away his corporate armor. "We're not done yet," he said, his voice rough with something Riley couldn't name. Anger, regret, desire. Riley's heart betrayed him, thudding with a longing he'd tried to bury. "You don't get to decide that," Riley snapped, stepping back, his hand instinctively shielding his belly. "You made your choice." Ethan's eyes flickered to Riley's stomach, and for a moment, something softened in his gaze. "I was wrong," he said, stepping closer, his voice breaking. "I was a coward. But I'm here now." Riley wanted to scream, to run, but his feet wouldn't move. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the rain slowing as if giving them this moment. Ethan reached out, his hand hovering near Riley's cheek, and Riley hated how much he wanted to lean into that touch. Their story wasn't supposed to end like this, with Riley cornered in the wilderness, his heart warring between love and betrayal. He'd run to protect himself, to protect the life growing inside him. But Ethan's presence cracked open every wound he'd tried to heal. "Why now?" Riley whispered, his voice trembling. Ethan's answer was simple, devastating: "Because I can't live without you." Riley's cabin was a modest refuge, a one-room sanctuary with a wood stove and a single window overlooking the misty valley. He'd spent months making it his own, hanging fairy lights and stacking books on a shelf he'd built himself. But now, with Ethan standing in the doorway, it felt too small, too fragile to hold the weight of their past. "You can't just show up and expect me to forgive you," Riley said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. He busied himself with the kettle, avoiding Ethan's gaze. The baby kicked, a sharp reminder of what was at stake. Ethan didn't move from the threshold. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "I just need you to hear me." Riley's hands shook as he poured water into a mug, the steam rising like the memories he'd tried to suppress. Ethan had always been magnetic, but now there was something desperate in him, a crack in the alpha facade. "I ended the engagement," Ethan continued. "I told my family the truth about us, about who I am. I've spent months looking for you, Riley. I sold half my shares to fund a foundation for your app idea. It's live now, helping people. I did it for you." Riley's mug slipped, clattering onto the counter. "You don't get to play hero," he said, turning to face Ethan, his eyes blazing. "You broke me. You told me our child was a mistake." Ethan flinched, and Riley saw the guilt, the pain. "I was scared," Ethan admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "My whole life, I was taught to control everything, to never show weakness. But losing you, that was my weakness." The room felt too warm, the air thick with unspoken words. Riley wanted to hate him, but the truth was Messier. He remembered the nights Ethan had held him, whispering dreams of a future they could build together. He remembered the way Ethan's laugh could light up a room, the way his touch made Riley feel invincible. But he also remembered the cold dismissal, the way Ethan's ambition had eclipsed their love. "What do you want from me?" Riley asked, his voice raw. "I want a chance," Ethan said, stepping closer, his eyes searching Riley's. "To be a father. To be yours." The words hung between them, heavy with possibility and pain. Riley's hand rested on his belly, feeling the life they'd created together. He didn't know if he could trust Ethan again, but the part of him that still loved him, the part that had never stopped, wanted to try. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the forest was quiet, as if waiting for Riley's answer. He didn't give one. Not yet. Instead, he gestured to a chair. "Sit," he said. "We'll talk." Ethan's shoulders sagged with relief, and for the first time, Riley saw the man behind the CEO, a man who was just as lost, just as scared, as he was. The next few days were a fragile dance. Ethan stayed in a nearby town, coming to the cabin each morning with coffee and supplies, his presence both comforting and unsettling. Riley let him in, but kept his distance, their conversations careful, tiptoeing around the past. Ethan told him about the foundation, how it was helping queer youth access mental health support, how Riley's app idea had become a reality. "I named it Haven," Ethan said one evening, as they sat by the fire. "Because that's what you were for me." Riley's throat tightened. He wanted to believe Ethan had changed, but trust was a fragile thing, and his was still in pieces. Yet, there were moments Ethan chopping wood outside, his sleeves rolled up, his face soft with concentration, or Ethan cooking a terrible omelet, laughing when Riley teased him, that made Riley's heart ache with possibility. The baby kicked harder now, as if sensing the shift in the air, and Riley found himself wondering what it would be like to raise their child together. But the past wasn't so easily buried. One night, as they sat on the cabin's porch, the stars bright above them, Riley asked the question that had haunted him for months. "Why didn't you fight for me then?" His voice was quiet, but the weight of it filled the space between them. Ethan looked away, his jaw tight. "I thought I was protecting you," he said. "My family, they're not like yours, Riley. They'd have destroyed you, used you to control me. I thought letting you go was the only way to keep you safe." Riley's eyes stung. "You should have let me decide that." Ethan nodded, his expression raw. "I know. I was wrong. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it to you, if you'll let me." The sincerity in his voice cracked something open in Riley, and for the first time, he let himself imagine a future where they could heal. But healing wasn't linear. The next morning, Riley found a letter slipped under his door, written in Ethan's precise handwriting. It was an apology, a confession, a plea. "I love you," it ended. "I always will." Riley read it over and over, his heart pounding. He didn't know if he was ready to forgive, but he knew he wasn't ready to let Ethan go again. Weeks passed, and the cabin became a shared space, filled with tentative steps toward reconciliation. Ethan was patient, never pushing, but always there fixing a leaky pipe, reading to Riley's belly, sharing stories of his own childhood, flawed and lonely. Riley saw the man Ethan was trying to become, and it stirred something in him, a hope he hadn't dared to feel since Seattle. But the world outside the forest wasn't done with them. One evening, as Riley and Ethan walked through the woods, a car pulled up on the dirt road nearby. A woman stepped out, Claire, Ethan's former fiancée, her face sharp with anger. "You think you can just walk away?" She spat, her eyes on Ethan. "Your family sent me. They want you back, and they'll ruin him to get it." She gestured at Riley, her words dripping with venom. Riley's blood ran cold. He'd known Ethan's family was powerful, but this was a threat he hadn't anticipated. Ethan stepped in front of Riley, his voice low and dangerous. "Tell them I'm done. I choose him." Claire laughed, a cruel sound. "You think love wins? They'll destroy his life, his job, his reputation, everything." Riley's hand found Ethan's, their fingers interlocking instinctively. For the first time, Riley didn't feel alone in the fight. They faced the threat together, Ethan using his connections to shield Riley, while Riley's quiet strength grounded them both. It wasn't easy. There were legal battles, whispered threats, and sleepless nights. But through it all, they held on to each other. When their daughter was born, in that same cabin where they'd rebuilt their trust, Riley looked at Ethan, tears in his eyes, and said, "We're enough." Ethan kissed him, soft and sure, and whispered, "We always were." Their love wasn't perfect, but it was real. The forest, once a place to hide, became their home, a testament to second chances, to the courage it takes to love again, and to the family they'd fought to become.